How avoidants cheat. Why they secretly keep in touch with multiple partners. Cheating is never just about desire or opportunity. It's about deeper psychological patterns, unmet needs, and fears. When it comes to avoidant attachment styles, their way of cheating or keeping emotional ties with multiple partners has unique roots in their wiring. An avoidant isn't necessarily a villain by nature, but their fear of intimacy and deep emotional vulnerability often pushes them toward behaviors that sabotage closeness. Unlike impulsive cheating that comes purely from lust, avoidants often cheat or maintain secret connections as a form of emotional self-protection. For them, closeness feels risky. They crave love but fear being consumed by it, so having multiple connections becomes their safety net, a way to avoid putting all their emotional eggs in one basket. To understand how avoidants cheat, we need to step inside their psychology, where distance feels safer than vulnerability, and control feels more comfortable than closeness. At their core, avoidants have learned to associate love with danger, control, or suffocation, often due to childhood experiences where emotional needs were dismissed or neglected. In adulthood, this translates into a fear of being too emotionally reliant on one person. While many people seek depth in relationships, avoidants fear it. So when they cheat, it isn't always about finding someone better or chasing excitement. It's about creating emotional escape routes. Even in seemingly committed relationships, an avoidant may keep the door cracked open for other potential partners. This gives them the illusion of freedom and control. If their main partner gets too close, too demanding, or expects too much emotional investment, they subconsciously reassure themselves, I have other options. I'm not trapped. This mindset is less about infidelity and more about maintaining psychological distance. What makes avoidance so difficult to read is their ability to compartmentalize. Unlike someone who cheats out of impulsivity or guilt, an avoidant can lead two entirely separate emotional lives without feeling as conflicted. Their fear of vulnerability allows them to detach from guilt because they justify their actions as a form of emotional self-preservation. They often convince themselves they're not really hurting anyone because they're not fully in with any one person. This is why avoidants can maintain a long-term relationship while simultaneously flirting, texting, or even emotionally investing in others. It's not always physical cheating. In many cases, it's emotional hedging, a quiet way of keeping a sense of independence and ensuring no one person has too much emotional power over them. One of the most common avoidant patterns is staying in touch with exes or backup partners. They may not even see this as wrong because they're not necessarily seeking intimacy from those connections. They're seeking reassurance that they're not trapped. This is a survival mechanism for them. Deep down, avoidants often struggle with low self-worth masked by independence. Keeping multiple people interested in them creates a safety net. If one person leaves, they won't feel completely abandoned. They're terrified of rejection, but equally terrified of closeness, so maintaining multiple emotional connections gives them the illusion of balance. But for their partner, this behavior feels like betrayal. It erodes trust and creates confusion because the avoidance seems both distant and hard to let go of. Another factor in avoidant cheating is their discomfort with emotional confrontation. Instead of addressing dissatisfaction in a relationship or expressing vulnerability, they might seek validation elsewhere. For them, cheating can feel easier than emotionally opening up and working through challenges with their partner. In fact, many avoidants cheat not because they're unhappy, but because they fear depending too much on someone. Emotional intimacy feels like exposure, and cheating becomes a way to regain control over their vulnerability. Ironically, this creates a cycle of guilt and secrecy, but because they're experts at emotional detachment, they can mask it well. Avoidants are also more likely to seek out partners who don't demand too much emotionally, making cheating feel like a relief rather than a betrayal. While their primary partner might expect deeper conversations, vulnerability, or closeness, their side relationships are often easier, lighter, and less threatening. These secondary connections become emotional safe zones where they can exist without pressure. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it explains why avoidants often gravitate toward multiple relationships. They're subconsciously avoiding intimacy while still wanting to feel desired. Social media and texting make this behavior even easier for avoidants to maintain. Because they're skilled at compartmentalization, they can keep multiple conversations going, often without a partner suspecting anything. Unlike overtly passionate affairs, avoidant cheating often flies under the radar because it's subtle. Late-night texts, emotional check-ins with an old flame, flirtation that never seems to cross a line but still feels like a betrayal. This emotional hedging helps them maintain distance from their primary partner without fully disengaging from love. For the avoidant, these side connections create a sense of control over their emotional vulnerability. One of the biggest misconceptions about avoidant cheating is thinking it's driven by excitement or dissatisfaction. In reality, it's often rooted in fear. Avoidants cheat or keep multiple connections as a way to spread out emotional risk. If one partner leaves, it won't devastate them because they never allowed themselves to be fully invested. This self-protective strategy keeps them safe, but at a cost, they rarely experience the deep love they secretly crave. Even when they appear confident and detached, avoidants often feel isolated because their own choices prevent them from forming true intimacy. This behavior can leave partners feeling confused because avoidants don't look like cheaters. They present as private, independent, and guarded, not flirtatious or reckless. But that very independence hides their fear of commitment. Keeping other people in their orbit becomes an emotional safety net, a way to avoid being fully vulnerable. They may not see themselves as manipulative, but their inability to face intimacy directly makes them seem emotionally unavailable, like they always have one foot out the door. The truth is, avoidants cheat not out of malice but fear. Their attachment style is built to shield them from emotional pain, and multiple connections make them feel less dependent. But this approach backfires, leaving them trapped in shallow, unsatisfying dynamics. Healing for avoidance means confronting these fears and realizing that intimacy isn't a trap. It's essential for real love. For their partners, understanding this pattern is empowering. Instead of chasing or fixing them, it's better to set boundaries and protect your own heart. At its core, avoidant cheating isn't proof of a lack of love. It's a symptom of emotional fear. They crave closeness, but fear it so deeply that they sabotage it, creating a constant push-pull between wanting love and running from it. Seeing this clearly doesn't excuse the behavior, but it brings peace. Their actions were never about your worth. They were about their fear of truly letting anyone in. And that's the truth about avoidant cheating and why they keep multiple emotional connections. It's not about you not being enough. It's about their fear of intimacy and their need to protect themselves. If you've been caught in this cycle, remember, their actions are a reflection of their wounds, not your worth. You deserve love that feels safe, consistent, and mutual. If this video gave you clarity, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into attachment psychology, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your healing starts with understanding, and I'll be here every step of the way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.